Wolves to Fleet Command. Load the gauntlets and send all available troops down as reinforcements.
I'll take care of the cruiser. Everyone go. Move! Go! Go, move!
Yeah, diving into some questions. So Mandalorian season 3 has came to an end, and fans have been able to see your character feature quite prominently. I guess just generally speaking, what has it been like for the show to wrap up, for you to reflect on it and see fans go crazy for your character?
Well, obviously it's, you hope that you're going to get a good reaction. Especially, being a fan myself, you kind of sit there thinking, made some choices and I went in a certain direction and I hope they come with me. And, there's a bit of a gap between when you finish filming and when it comes out. So there's always a bit of trepidation. You're always sitting there thinking, oh my God, was there broccoli in my teeth? Or, how's this going to come across? But honestly, it's just been incredible. The feedback and how everyone's responded to the character has just been so rewarding in so many ways, just in terms of, how people are really happy with the character and what it represents to a lot of people. I've had such a spectrum of reactions, all positive, thank God. That's just been amazing. That's been pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
guys.
You definitely came out of the season a big fan favorite. I'm curious, with Axe, you bring this kind of calm, commanding presence, and obviously have deep ties to the Mandalorian culture explored in the show. How much of that, his personality, characteristics, and backstory, was on the page compared to what you were able to create and shape on your own?
Well, I mean, there were certain parameters. As an actor, you're always looking at the text. It always starts with good writing and good storytelling, which, with Dave and John, you've got incredible, well thought out, very respectful, approach to the source material. So, when you get the scripts, you're in good hands. Outside of that, my job as an actor is always to review what is in between the lines and what I can flesh out, and then approach the creatives in charge and say, hey, look, I've got these ideas and I'm thinking along these lines. And very quickly on a set like that, you realize that you're in really safe hands, where they've hired you to do, they know you, they've either checked out material or they respect the work you've done before. And I think they're just as excited as you are to kind of try things out. And I think the way I approached it certainly was, I'm in safe hands. I'm in the best hands in the world. So I'm going to imagine this backstory and this personality and this approach to the world that this character has, and ask, hey, what are we after here? What are my guidelines? If we go all the way over here, or are we going all the way over here? Do you want to see the spectrum? And most of the time they allowed me to kind of play across that spectrum, which felt really, again, it makes you watching the show that much more exciting, because you're like, I wonder where they're going to land the choices, how are they going to edit this and show this. And what I really enjoyed was, you never shoot in sequence, right? So the time we got to my final scene of filming, it was actually my introductory scene from episode 6. So the intro there was the last thing I shot. And before I shot that, I had a chat with Jon Favreau, who visited me on set. And the dialogue lands in a let's say, in a tone and in a position where it didn't really reflect a lot of the choices I'd made leading up to there. And so I thought, well, how are we going to approach these lines with as much empathy, as opposed to, maybe on the page a little bit more of a linear character? Because I certainly imagined a lot more pain, a lot more empathy, and a lot more of a personal journey for him. I mean, for me, looking at the insignia even on his armor, he is part of the Night Owls in terms of that cadre of 3 of them. But he has no Night Owl insignia. There's no emblems on the shoulders. There's nothing about the helmet. So I think, so where do I go from that? I think, well, I've got to imagine that this character exists in a realm of, maybe through reputation on the battlefield, or maybe he came up in a way that, built a reputation, or as a kind of very much, part of, let's say, a lesser class as a warrior within that, and the reputation allowed him to step forward and be part of that. What pain does he have when he's on the drop ship with Paz Vizsla, and he says, I was here when it happened. What happened to him? How did he get off the planet?
Right.
Who did he lose when he takes the helmet off at the forge? What did he go through? Shall we show some pain there? Those were choices of mine, which I'm really grateful have, reacted with the fans, that they've seen the material, and that, you see things like that, because that's a lot of work that you aim for. You never know where it's going to land, but certainly to see it played out that way within that context is very rewarding, very rewarding. I mean, that's the work.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I think everything you're saying is so thought-provoking and mindful, and that comes across on the screen, to be honest, that in your performance, it really shines through that this isn't just, like you said, a linear character, but someone who has these multifaceted angles to him and has such a deep history. I know that in another interview, you had mentioned that your character got his name in season 2 when George Lucas visited the set. Is that correct?
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. I was in a fitting. My very first time meeting John and Dave, and being fitted season 2 with all the armor. And they were making tweaks, and there was, I'd auditioned in an American accent, and when they started speaking to me, they were like, you got an English accent, that's interesting, why don't we go with that? I was like, okay, let's go with that. And then during that fitting, John and Dave looked at each other and were like, should we tell him, do you know how you got your character name? And I said, no, it's a pretty cool name. And they said, yeah, the day that George visited, he was sitting there and just said, hey, you know what, you should have a character called Axe Woves. Quite randomly, by the sound of it. I mean, you'd have to speak to John and Dave. It's really not my story to tell fully, but from that moment onwards, I thought, wow, I better get my textbooks out and study this a little bit more.
That's incredible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, humbling, right? I mean, you're involved in something like that, and you realize that the guy conjured up this really cool name. It adds to the reverence of the whole affair. As an actor, kind of go, okay, I know where I am now. Let's get to work. So yeah.
And not only to approach it as an actor, but like you said earlier, as a fan, I can't imagine just having that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this before. I've had other interviews where I've mentioned that thankfully I'm a certain age where I've had some experience in other titles that you have to allow yourself a moment of giddiness, of just being so overwhelmed and excited. But after you have that, this is what you do for a living. You kind of got to go, right, what's the job at hand?
Right.
And you have to step into that. But the really wonderful thing about this set is that everyone's excited, and you're allowed to have that room where you literally straight arrow back to childhood, and you're playing with boys. And I think that's the same for everyone on set. I think, from set assistants all the way through to the executives, I think everyone there is, running around going pew pew,
That's incredible. No, I'm sure the atmosphere is amazing. Shifting gears a little bit from you as an actor, I had a question about some of your other work. So you've directed some short films. You've had experience directing. We've already seen one Mandalorian actor in Carl Weathers take that step from actor to behind the camera. If you ever had that opportunity, would that be something that you would embrace, would look forward to?
Are you talking about in general or specific to this show?
Specific to the show, but yeah, in general as well. Yeah.
Specific to this show, I mean, I think I'm a few hurdles behind getting the opportunities to do that. But I do know that, if that ever came about, it's the kind of job where I think you'd sell a kidney to do it. I think they know that I'd be very interested. I mean, really, the straight answer is very happy with what I'm doing now, and it's busy and big enough. And, I'm really focused on the character and just hoping that there's more room for him to play in, moving forwards. But, the scale of this show is incredible. And I think you'd need to shadow as a director on a couple of episodes to get an idea of what you're getting your hands on. I think otherwise it's an unruly beast, and I think you'd end up doing it a disservice. The experience isn't there. There are steps towards that. I mean, I'm certain as an actor, I'm certainly comfortable and I'm there, and I'm glad it's resonating. But as a director, I think you'd have to kind of handle it with the respect it deserves, and take the time. But I am moving into more directing now for sure. So, one day, hey, if they think that I'm good enough and they see my stuff and they're like, do you want to check it out? Then I'd be more than happy, of course. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, I remember you from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other projects. So, I've loved seeing you in front of the camera. I'm curious behind the camera as well.
Check out the short I've done, Trust No One. It's this action short that I did. It's on YouTube now. And I'm really proud of it. I crowdfunded it, and it, shot it in 3 days. It was a lot of work, and a lot of guys from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. helped me out in front. Okay. And Shauna, who is the costume designer on Mandalorian, even before I was in Mandalorian, she randomly happened to be the costume designer for that. So it's a small one. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure to check that out and help spread the word.
Yeah, please do check it out. I think you like it.
A few of your co-stars, like Katie Sackhoff, had mentioned that originally your character died in season 2. And yet, obviously, that didn't come to fruition. I'm curious what you remember about the character's death as originally planned in season 2, and how you found out, oh no, Axe isn't going to die. He's going to be in season 3.
Yeah, I mean, I was, thanks, Katie. Yeah, nice one. I did hear about her saying that. It's... look, I mean, to talk on it a little bit, I think for me anyway, the way I look at it is that it's really the storyteller's story to tell, so John, Dave, all the guys that kind of create the show, I'll speak on my reaction to it, but the decisions behind it and all those things and what happened and why, that's not, they're such experts in deciding the arcs and what they want to see and how they want to shape things. I can't really speak to that because I think I was just mostly excited that it didn't go that way. But I do remember them calling up and saying, hey, would you like to come back and film an alternate, finish? And I said, yeah, of course, that'd be good. And then when I went in and we did that, it was beyond the season finale having been shot and locked, so it was too late to kind of be inserted into a finale. So a lot of the where was he, what were you doing, why weren't you in it, now the cat's out the bag, I can say that it wasn't out of choice, but it certainly was. I certainly had no idea for a long time as to how and when and if I was going to be back. And, all I had to go on was, the wonderful reaction from the fans just from that one episode in season 2, which leaves you hopeful. And then obviously when I got the scripts for season 3 and we're reading them, I just thought, wow. And when I turned up on set, John and I sat down and he said, how do you feel about this arc? And I said, well, you better put your seatbelt in because I'm going to have some fun here, and there were so many things about, this season, especially that weren't necessarily planned, like I remember John, and, had he had a moment at the when they relight the forge, he came up and said, hey, where's Axe? And I was down there with the guys and he said, I think you should say something here. And he said, how would you feel about saying something? And I said, well, what do you want me to say? And he said, well, try for Mandalore. How do you feel about saying that line? And, the rest is history. But, I mean, it was an amazing moment, thinking about them all returning, especially given the back story that I'd built into that moment in terms of what it meant for that character. So I just went for it. I just went old school, went very, very deep projections, and it was pretty cool.
No, well, I for one, and I think I speak for many fans, are very grateful that your character lived beyond season two and until that point in season three.
Thank you.
In addition to that scene, right, and that and your booming presence in that, you're also involved in quite a lot of action in season three. In particular, you have that hand-to-hand combat scene with Katie Sackhoff's character, and then later
Right.
with Pre Vizsla. I wonder what was it like to kind of prepare for those action sequences? The choreography seemed very intricate.
Yeah, I mean, you got to firstly, doff your cap to, the stunt guys, JJ and, Joanna are so dialed in and committed, to the point that you just think, how do they move in the morning? They must be so sore. So you firstly got an idea of what you're getting into when they show you the fight. Then you watch someone like John pick apart the fight and make sure that it tells the story the way he wants to. And then all you can do as an actor is make sure that the moments that that it isn't going to just be a fight, that it's charged with emotion. So, you sit down, you speak to your co-stars and you sit there going, okay, well, what does this mean to us? Like, where are we? So the shape, there has to be an arc to the fight even. So for me with Katie, what's the story here? What's our backstory? We discussed it a little bit, but I think that the headlines are, we care for one another. We deeply, there's history there, and we really care about each other, very loyal. Hence, the minute it made sense, I was back on side and committed. So you can't just fight someone as if they're an enemy. There's a different way you fight someone you love. There's a different way you fight someone that you're, is it for power? Is it for pride? Is it for history? All of these things shape the emotional direction of any choice. There's a way to be upset when you get hit from someone that you love versus someone you've just met. Yeah. And so as long as, as the work is, focused on those moments, then you're in good ground. Physically, you just got to keep, stretching and, I'm not as young as I used to be. So, you just got to make sure you're strong and that, you get your rest. That fight in particular, nicks, cuts, whiplash on the neck, there was certain things that, that you do your best, but you end up getting injured a little bit. And then, you prepare by really stepping in where they tell you it's safe. And, realizing that there's a whole technique to action in itself, certain things you might feel, the thing as actors is that we really aim to kind of emote. But so many times you might think that it feels like a great punch or that you are registering that feeling, but it doesn't read on camera. And so that's a whole other version of performance that, if you're lucky enough, you get to learn from people like that. And we certainly did. Yeah, they put me through my paces,
No, I really like your thoughtfulness and what went into that action sequence. It's not just, two people fighting and exchanging punches and kicks. There's more to it. It lends itself to the story. Well,
yeah, again, it depends how you're going at it. There's projects where you just got to look cool. Some films and some things that I love, it's important that you just look cool. But the danger with that is that if there's no emotional resonance with that action sequence, then you're just watching a fight and you just want to see a cool fight. But I think what they've done very well in this season is they've loaded every single fight with emotion and with, meaning. And I think that's great storytelling.
Yeah, you're not just watching an action sequence, but more to it, more substance to it, definitely.
We hope.
Yeah. In the finale, I know you mentioned that last bit where you have that line. Right next to you is the young boy Ragnar, played by Leslie Kimmel, and I know some fans have speculated that, or I guess hypothesized that maybe Axe adopted or has now taken Ragnar under his wing. How do you interpret that situation? Is it just coincidence that they're standing right next to each other, or is there more to it?
I don't think. I mean, I think there is a little bit of coincidence. I have not heard anything of that. But when you hear about that, you think, wow, you know what? These fans are the best. They're really dialed. They see that. I know that John is so meticulous, and Dave, that the positioning and that choice to say that line and have that in frame and choose that frame isn't by accident. I'd be very surprised if it were. but I'm not dialed into that choice in terms of why and, what it means. To speculate, I think it'd be kind of cool, right? I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, is Axe, I don't know. And also you think, in terms of role models and father figures, I mean, Axe will pick a fight with a wall, is he the best role model for maybe for a young Mandalorian? But I mean, Axe strikes me from what we've seen. Yeah, he's got, there's depth there, but he also loves to fight. I mean, he's willing to go, he went through the atmosphere with a jetpack. You got to think there are sensible choices, good father figures, and then there's a bit, maybe he's got some help, maybe he's in charge of the combat unit and he's training how to kick some ass, but not sure if he's there as a father figure in the full capacity. I'd be, it depends, man. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe we haven't seen that side of him yet. It may be there though. But no, I agree. I think it's lovely to see, fans attach themselves to a single image, right? Like that, and then run with it. I did want to ask you about obviously as a fan, and kind of embracing this whole Star Wars world. What must it be like to kind of look back and say, oh, these are movies that I used to watch as a child, and now I have my own action figure, and now people are dressing up as my character. I'm wondering if you could reflect on that a little bit.
I can reflect on it in so many ways. I mean, I think that, it really is an outer body experience a lot of the time. I think that you require, being an actor, philosophically speaking, is quite a weird thing, in terms of, you start out, you just hope that you're chosen for something. And that, as you develop a career, everyone has aspirations to, reach certain heights. I think that's the nature of the business. You dream, you dream big, you decide that you're going to be an actor. I think you're always, aiming for the stars. But certainly to find yourself amongst them, and then for this to happen, is otherworldly. I think there's a bit of a remove for me. I've mentioned that before as well. I think that when I see a toy or I see people that are there and I'm that, it's luckily the way I approach the work is that it's something that I've played. It's not me. Because I think if you start doing that, I think you need to get a bigger hat. You start, you start speaking in third person, and generally, I think you're a bit of a, one of those guys. But yeah, I mean, there are moments, of course, where I think the moments that it really impacts me the most, and I find it so much bigger than me when I'm at, conventions, let's say, or which I haven't done a lot of, but when I've gone to the few that I've been to, and you get a chance to sit opposite, people and and from all ages, and you'll meet fathers, or you'll meet young kids, or you'll meet the entire spectrum, and you see in that moment what it means to people, and that you're part of something greater than yourself. And that is something that, if you respect it in the way that it deserves, can look after you as much as it looks after them for the rest of your life. And it's a privilege, right? So I think that as long as that is in the box, we're good. I think if you start to allow it to be, if you can't compute that in a healthy way, then I guess you should go and do something else. But it's way, way beyond my wildest dreams. And that's why I think because it is, I think that's why when I'm on set in productions like this, I focus down on the work, because no matter the scale or what it means, or if they're making toys of you, I think that with that, the only choice that I have for myself is to focus even more on the work and honoring the work and finding the truth and the resonance in the character, because that's what's going to honor the opportunity. So you go with the more granular choices, I guess, to kind of make sure that the work matches it, rather than do I look cool. Well, that's my choice anyway, and that sort of keeps your head in the game in the right way, rather than walking around thinking, I wonder what size my toy is going to be,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a really lovely response and so humble. Yeah, no, Simon, thank you so much for being able to speak with me. I think I speak for many Star Wars fans. We love your character, love your performance. So fingers crossed, you know, you're in it in it again, and then we'll keep an eye out for any other future projects of yours. Thank you so
honestly,
much.
thank you. It means a lot to me. You know, like every time I hear about someone wanting to chat to me about this, you know, it always means such a great deal. So great questions, and I hope that was good.